The accountability morticians come for us all, eventually. We're doing ASMR voice, so you know it's a late-night impulse recording. Gooden, a very popular YouTuber and person I actually watch, so for once I've got a little bit of a stake here, recently made an apology video after an old tweet from 5 years ago resurfaced in which he makes a racial joke about a made-up Asian girl. Everything I just said in this sentence requires clarification and expounding. Don't worry, I've got a lot to say about it all. But first, the tweet. The tweet is a 5-year-old quote tweet of an even older tweet of his, so it's him going, "I lost 3 followers when I tweeted this, but I think it's so funny," and then the quoted tweet is as follows. Me, talking to a cute Asian girl. "Boy, I sure am glad my eyes aren't slanted like that, so I can see how pretty you are. Girl, ching chong." I don't know what his delivery was like back then, but from watching a bunch of his recent videos, I assume I got pretty close. It's a tweet, so it was never actually verbalized. Forgive my liberties, but as someone who also often gets compared to John Mulaney when I'm not being this sexy, I don't think we're reaching too far. In his apology video, Drew says that he is ashamed of this tweet, that he can't believe he ever found something like that funny, and that he deleted it a few months later, which means somebody had to have screenshotted it at the time and held on to it for 5 entire ass years before releasing it back into the wild at the height of the hashtag Stop Asian Hate movement. What a coincidence. But before we gleefully dive headfirst into conspiracy theories, allow me to admit that my only context for this situation is the apology video itself, which shows the tweet in it, and the subsequent thread of replies, including Drew's own reply, where he shows that he is donating $5,000 each to a menagerie of Asian charities. I guess that's how much an old deleted joke costs these days when you've got almost 3 million subscribers. There is a whole hell of a lot to talk about here, and you're gonna want to hear all of it because I and this issue are both very compelling. Let's start with a phrase I used at the beginning of this video, accountability morticians. People nowadays love to hold other people accountable for pretty much anything. A poorly written joke, an out-of-touch statement, several bodies in your basement. It seems like we have to be held accountable for everything these days. No statute of limitations, no designation of irrelevance, no assumption of personal growth. Your accountability is on trial 24 hours a day and requires a constant stream of proof. It doesn't matter how long ago you told a joke. It doesn't matter if you deleted that joke. It doesn't matter if it's dead. Accountability morticians specialize in the dead. That's their whole thing. They look for dead things, buried 6 feet under the dirt, not bothering anybody, and they try to resurrect them. That's right. In addition to being morticians, they're also necromancers, and potentially necrophiliacs, given the amount of intense pleasure it seems to give them. Accountability mortician necromancer philiacs. That's who we're dealing with. The logic behind it boggles the mind because the only reason to be mad at that tweet is if you're offended on behalf of Asian people or yourself as an Asian person, and through some misguided desire to protect a marginalized community, your solution is to spread that shit around so that more of them see it. Hey guys, look at this potentially hurtful thing I found in a spot where it wasn't hurting anyone. Come get hurt by it. I'm a hero. That's like walking into a room full of people with nut allergies like, hey guys, found another jar of peanut butter out there. This one's old because it wasn't on sale. I actually found it buried in some YouTuber's backyard, but it's still peanut butter, so cover your nose. You're a fucking fool. You gleefully rub people's noses in things that might hurt them because you want them to be hurt, because it proves your point. You're not compassionate. You're a hypocrite. If someone's doing target practice at a firing range, you're secretly tying people to the backs of the targets and waiting for them to get shot so you can be like, see, guns kill people. It's absolutely despicable behavior and is not how you make a point. I never saw the tweet trending before Drew's apology video, which he did on Twitter exclusively, by the way. I saw people suggest that he make one on YouTube as well, but as of me typing this, he is not. And I don't think he needs to, because it's a Twitter thing anyway. But so he might have decided to jump out in front of it, and there's certainly a chance that it might have blown up negatively if he hadn't. However, I do not like how this has gone down. You've heard it all before. People change, people grow, blah blah. Yes, they do. I'm fully on that side. It's just so boring to repeat every time. I don't know why people can't just assume that if you haven't made a racial joke in 5 years, you probably decided not to do them anymore. Do you really need to demand a retroactive condemnation? Why are you bringing up something you don't want to see in pursuit of still never seeing it? If Drew Gooden made a bing bong joke a week ago, you'd have some cause to think there might be a pattern to this behavior, but it was already over. Hey, that thing you stopped doing a long time ago that I shouldn't have even seen to begin with, you're gonna keep not doing it, right? The weird part is, in this case, nobody actually thinks this dude is racist like they normally do in a situation like this. It's exclusively the joke itself, which, by the way, is comparable to stuff Stephen Colbert was saying in his 40s, right down to the ching chong. So if you want to judge the comedic viability of something like that tweet, just know its reach extends to nationally syndicated comedy talk shows. People are like, that joke is so unfunny and lazy and gross. Why would anyone think of something like that? Like, dude, that tweet was on the Colbert Report. This sense of humor has a market, whether you like it or not, and is told by people you wouldn't deem racist. Stephen Colbert also apologized later, but when a 50-year-old man apologizes for a joke he told when he was 40, maybe it's not actually a question of maturity. Drew was 22 at the time of the tweet and is 27 now. I'll be 100% honest, as per usual. I don't think this type of thing warranted any sort of apology at all. The only thing this needed, if he was that inclined to address it, is a, yeah, I used to be an edgelord or whatever, but I think I've grown a lot since then and wouldn't tweet something like that now. I'd have left it alone entirely. Back in 2015, I made jokes exactly like that shit, and the only difference in some of the ones I make now is that they're more clever. I made a joke about mispronouncing a Chinese word in an exaggerated way in literally the last video I uploaded, and I know that shit is funny. I don't care who you are. You don't have to think so, but I think so. No shame required. Why would I ever apologize for a joke, even when I didn't think was funny anymore? It was still a stepping stone in the creative process. Even if you trip up the stairs a few times, you're still higher than you were. Before I deleted my original Twitter account because I wanted the inner peace of leaving that petri dish of rage bait, only to rejoin on my new account so I wouldn't be out of the loop on gaming news before mildly falling back into my old habits, I looked through some of my super old tweets from like 2014, 15, and 16, and I thought some of them were absolutely cringe. Just because I don't endorse something doesn't mean I have to apologize for it. It was still me. It was still a phase of my life. Those tweets were still up at that point. Anyone could have searched and found those, but don't act shocked if you did. That's exactly what you were looking for in the first place. There is no other reason to prowl someone's old tweets. If you're back a few years, you're up to no good, period. You're begging to find something so you can pretend you're offended while trying to get a reaction from people who are actually offended. And let's talk about that reaction. Drew Gooden apologized for his offensive Asian tweet. Asian people flooded his replies. How do you think they responded? Do you think they accepted his apology? Do you think they rejected his apology? Do you think they didn't give a shit in the first place? If your answer is any one of these answers, you're thinking about it incorrectly and are part of the problem. The true answer is all of the above, because Asians do not react as a community to shit, because they are not a hive mind. Anyone who aims to provoke a reaction from a community by bringing something to their attention, like Asians are going to have a community consensus and send a delegate to pass judgment on the race's behalf. God, it's such a backwards racist way of thinking, perpetuated by the very people who claim to be so anti-racist. Hey guys, I found something you might be interested in. Now would you please all kindly react to this the way I want you to, in perfect unison? All together now, and a 1, and a 2, and a monolith, and a 4. Fuck you, so hard. You wannabe conductors of the Philharmonic Race War Orchestra. Some Asians accepted the apology, some Asians didn't. Some Asians couldn't care less that this was even a thing. People dig up tweets like this because they assume that the marginalized group they're championing will all be grateful and thank them profusely for their service. People apologize for tweets like this because they assume that they need to be held accountable to an entire community, as if they are now the shepherds of your contrition. You're giving them the responsibility of deciding your fate as if they all want that. Some of them do, no doubt. Some people will gleefully take an opportunity to morally tower above you and take their seat on the judge's bench. It gives them power. It gives them self-righteousness. You made a joke about Asians after all. You devastated their sensibilities. I don't know how they find the strength to carry on, honestly. You made fun of a make-believe Asian person's eyeballs. Now give yourself over to an entire race and repent. This is the dark side of accountability. It's almost ritualistic. It's a voluntary flogging, and some people are happy to hold the whip for you. A lot of people don't care, and a lot of people care in the sense of like, oh, my heart goes out to anyone who was hurt by this, but I'm sure you've learned and grown, and they're not sadists about it. But every time something like this happens, I see hooded figures stalking in the night. You can see them in Drew's replies. As I mentioned before, Drew Gooden tweeted that he was donating $5,000 each to a select group of Asian charities and encouraged his followers to list other places he should donate to as well. That's a bad move. Let me tell you what happens when you open that charity door. People hold it open. You just apologized for an offensive tweet and offered to pay for it. Two things are happening here that are horrible when combined. One, people smell blood. And two, your wallet is open. They will descend on you like a swarm of sharks for every penny you can offer, and no matter what you do, it won't be good enough. $5,000? Why not 10? 3 charities? Why not 4? I'm a struggling Asian college student. Can you Venmo me $100 and subscribe to my OnlyFans so I know you're serious about not being racist? Hey, I'm black. Is there a reason you haven't donated to BLM in the past 3 days? Your charity has become a tax, and anywhere you draw the line is going to draw ire. Your good boy card is being held for ransom by bad actors in the community, and you've allowed this by being so penitent. It never just stays about the one thing, either. I saw a reply in that thread from some random chick like, you also used the R word in a video once? Can you apologize for that as well? Blood. It smells. I'm not speaking for Drew on this one, but if you're offended by the R word, you're retarded. And I mean that in the derogatory way, not the scientific one. I'm not comparing you to someone who has Down syndrome. That would be a huge disservice to them. I'm calling you a stupid, dumb baby via slang. Cry retarded tears into your retarded pillow. I fully realize by now that the content of this video will not earn me the title of reputable ally as far as Drew is concerned, and that's okay, because he probably disagrees with plenty of this anyway. I've actually interacted with him a few times. He followed my old Twitter account, he said he liked my music, and a couple years ago he said I was one of the funniest people on YouTube, a statement I'm sure he'd like to take back. This video is purely selfish on my part. I legitimately don't think he would like it, but I'm making it anyway to get this off my chest. I don't believe this is going to end badly for Drew. I think he'll be fine. I suggest he doesn't make a YouTube video about it, but even if he did, would probably still be fine. He's one of the only people I actually consistently watch on this site because he's legitimately funny, and I'm inherently jealous of literally every comedy YouTuber with more subs than me, so you know that means something. You should check him out if you haven't already, especially if you're Asian. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow my new unpopular Twitter at Sunburned Albino, and I'll see you guys next time.